The first Marxist-capitalist was a guy called Frederick Engels, who had a factory in Salford and was shown around the distressing kind of world that was out there at that time. He was here in 1842, and he did what he saw really shocked him. The average age of a worker dying in Manchester, right here, in 1842, the average life expectancy was 20 years. If you're a labourer, it was 17 years. I mean, these are serious deprivation. And that anger and that passion made him realise he had to do something about it. And he was the first person to sponsor Karl Marx, somebody he met in Germany. And out of that, they wrote together the Communist Manifesto, which was to try and right the wrongs that they saw in the world out there. And in line with that, I had a similar kind of experience. As I say, I'm very proudly from Barnsley. And what you've got to do if you want to think creatively about things, you use your anger that you from your own personal experiences, and you try and reinvent the world the way you'd like to see it. So what I suggest you do, I went to a course at Harvard a few years ago. It cost £25,000. It was about innovation. Absolute waste of money, except for one thing. If you want to be creative and innovative, you go into every scenario with an open mind. You suspend your preconceived ideas of what you're going to find out, of what you're going to think, and you come up with your own version of the reality after you've listened to it. So I'd ask for 50 minutes, 56 seconds. You can have a think openly about Marxist. We don't all have AK-47s, reassuringly. I don't. Even though most people do tend to think we're these angry people wearing berets. So what happened to me, though, was I left university, got kicked out twice. I can't count. One of those things that you just learn later in life. It's one of those things that actually is a thing called dyspraxia or something. But when I left university, this was happening. And for those of you who are too young, which is 97% of the people sitting in front of me, in 1984 and 5, there was a year-long miners' strike. And this is where Thatcher decided to use this entity called power as a destructive force. And so for a year, families were starved out. They had no social welfare. They were given nothing other than the generous gifts of other trade unions and people throughout the country, actually, giving them a lot of time. But it actually closed the entire town that I lived and I loved in. I had to move down south, got a job down south, and my family being raised down south as a consequence of that. But the injustice of that time stood with me for an awfully long period of time. And then you open your mind and your eyes to what's going on out there. You don't turn a blind eye anymore. You have an awareness of the world. And you start to see the stuff that we've heard about this morning. The huge inequality. I mean, it should be illegal. It absolutely should be illegal. You look at the human exploitation that is going on out there every day. When we buy our Apple products and when we buy our pound stretcher stuff, and we don't think of the human cost that's gone into those things because it's opaque. You can't. You've got no idea of finding it out. One of the themes you'll see later on in my speech is transparency is an amazingly powerful force for good. And you also look at the environmental degradation that's out there. We are doing it fantastically well right here, right now. But what about our families, our children, our children's children? You can't bring back the stuff that we're ripping out. Even recycling is a really, really, really poor way of using human and environmental resources. So it also leads to these kind of people. I'm told not to swear because I would be swearing right here, right now about the people like that. So I decided instead of looking at revolution, because that's a really destructive force. And you just have to look at South Sudan and some of the places in Africa to see the damage that no government has, Mogadishu and all this kind of stuff, really, really scary places. So I wanted to have rage within the machine. So we use the machine, rather like a martial art, use the other person's power against them. You don't actually try and get more power, you just turn it on its head. So this is where I thought, what happens if I could create a business that will be the antithesis of what I saw out there as business, as these successful capitalists out there that use all the kind of strength of it, but use it in a different and creative way. So I did. And 20 years ago, I set up Webmart. Webmart is a print management business based in Barnsley, East Kilbride and Bicester, and it's made a profit every year. We've never borrowed any money. It's now got a balance sheet of £7.3 million. It pays 153% more tax, because that's for the things that matter in life. The NHS, the reason we're in a safe country. These things are really important, and you've got to pay for them. You can't actually leave them to individuals to provide things like armed forces, police services, because when you do, it's not a great place to be. And we've donated over £500,000 to charity at the same time as doing it. And the reason I want to set the business up, because if you implore people, if you say it's fantastic, what happens if we could do a different type of business? It's just warm words unless you prove it, unless you do it, unless you can show people that this is the way it can be done. You have a choice. So what I'm going to try and do over the next few days, these are the other things that we've done, the environmental stuff. We have our oxygen farm, 166 acres of oxygen farm up in Scotland, where we are carbon positive to the tune of a whole 2,276 employees. Because I'm a Marxist-capitalist, I've got to have conventional things that I can point to. So we win lots of awards, which gives us that kind of veneer of respectability within the ruling classes. And we also have yellow sheds of wonderment, which are idiosyncratic officers like you've never seen before. And I'm going to explain how we've achieved all this without borrowing money, without screwing people, looking to do the best we can for everybody that is in the business, works with the business, either supply or client side. The trouble with capitalism is it only looks for one thing. There's an old adage that says, for the man with a hammer, the whole world is a nail. Because it only does one thing. It only looks at one thing. That's why you get all these people that you see around there that have the audacity to call themselves Sir whatever the hell it is, and yet will rape the pension pots of people who've worked hard for them for years to buy themselves another yacht. You know, this is absolutely fundamental. And seen as successful. Seen as these are the paragons of virtue. Absolutely not the case. So, if you look at financial through a single lens, of course, then you've only got one plane, haven't you? You're either doing better or worse. The fact that it doesn't mean anything, the fact you've got another nought on your bank balance, what does that mean? What does it do to you? Does it make you happy? Of course it doesn't. So what we've worked is we've created a set of tools which measures a much broader palette than that. We at Webmart measure three things, because these are the things that matter. We measure the intellectual return that we deliver to the people in the business out of it. And that means that you can be a very good person in one area and really terrible at other things. It's good only to be at one thing. You cannot be the best at everything. People try to. Teachers try to tell you. Lecturers try to tell you. People in the world of work will try and tell you you've got to be good at everything. You can't be. Just work out what the person is good at and give them the opportunity to be the best that they can in that. Because if you're doing things that well, you enjoy it. If you do things you're not good at, you don't enjoy it. So I first maximize the intellectual return, then you maximize the emotional return, the joy, the fun of doing it. And if you do those two things, if you're doing a good job because you're good at it and also you're enjoying it, people want to trade with you, because that is a very different experience than most of the service that you get in the world. And so that's where you develop the financial return. And it's in those three things that you create a unique opportunity. And if you look at that as a company level, you can also look at that as an individual level. It's what you're good at, what you love, and what pays well. And one of the scary things about, I'm 51, nearly 52, is I've got loads of mates who are here, because what we were told is we had to do things that we're good at and got paid well. And they've got loads of money in the bank, but they're hating their life because it's just not something that they want to do. And you don't now need to think about, all of the kind of things that you have as an opportunity. Back then we had to do the professions and all that kind of stuff. Well, these are all going to be, quite a lot of them are going to be disintermediated with artificial intelligence sometime soon. So you can be your true self. You can do the stuff that you love, like making films, like looking at history and finding out about it. Because you're good at it, you love it, you'll create money. It'll be good enough to make you a fantastic life. And those are the three things that matter in your life. If you've got those three things, you've got a great life. Because that's what humanity's around. And it's not just about having it yourself, it's about giving that as well at the same time. So how do we maximize intellectual return? Well, we ask people, we understand their life goals. What is it you want to be? Because what I want, what you want, will be totally different out of a fulfilling life. But if you ask and then work out as a business how you can deliver that for them, it's happy days. You also maximize them with tech. Throw as much tech at them as you possibly can, because what's between those ears is expensive. What you have in your hands and stuff isn't. So you can have as many screens as you want, as much technology as you want, and then maximize the opportunities. Give people the best things that you can do, the most creative things that you do, not just deal with the problems. And we invert the management structure. So in our world, I'm at the bottom. I'm supporting the leadership team. I'm supporting the frontline team, because the frontline team are the people dealing with customers and suppliers. They are the people that really know where it's at as a business, how to innovate and how to get much better. And we take time out. I have time, because I've got other people who are actually working and aligned well. Take time out to go and do a DIY MBA. MBAs are remarkably expensive and useless. If you've ever sat in one, it's dreadful. So I've got a van, sit at the top of a hill and enjoy the vista with my trance music and cup of tea, listening to all of those kind of things. And you mentor people, because actually mentoring is a two-way street. You get more out of it than you could possibly imagine. And you get a wider diversity of views about it, because you're actually talking to people on a one-to-one basis, and it's a human thing. It's fantastically powerful. So one thing you take away from this, get mentoring. And understand the kind of people that you want to recruit. So we do psychological profiles before people join, through the interviews. They have to then get over a 3-month review where everybody assesses everybody within the business. So everybody votes them in. And then at 6 months as well. But once you've got in there, happy days. So we also maximize the emotional return. This is one of the key advantages of being a northern bloke. I trust everybody. Down south, you can spend a lifetime as they just gradually eke up towards a level of trust with you. Now, there's two things will happen with it if you trust everybody from day one. They will either try and screw you, or they will be a mate for life. And on an 80-20, I would say 90-10, I'd probably say 95-5, people are trustworthy. So I've got a massive comparative advantage over everybody else, because people share things with you, and then you can help them and make sure they have a great life. Transparency. Be as open as possible all the way through your life. Understand the whole person. Work for you people of your age is going to be in and out of work is exactly the same. You're the same person. We used to have different personas. We used to dress differently and all that kind of stuff in work from out of work. So, but if you understand the whole person, you can really make it so that everybody enjoys their time at work. And look after Maslowian hierarchy of needs. For those of you who have not come across it, there's basically, you look after all of the kind of stuff like safety and feeling of belonging and all the kind of needs of people to get to this self-actualization, the stuff, the nirvana, the essence of you, the stuff that you enjoy doing, that you learn and you've got a comparative advantage over. And my responsibility is to deliver all of the opportunity for people to do that in their life. And then, because all a company is a bag of people. There's nothing else. If you think of it, it's an artificial legal construct that is just a thing in law. It's aligning people for a purpose, giving them a purpose, giving them the opportunity to be the best version that they can, and everybody pulls together. It's a much easier way of working and making yourself, making it fun, but also hard. It's got to be challenging. It can't be just laid back and all that kind of stuff, because you'll then get left behind. You've got to have pressure, not stress, but pressure in everything that you do. And lastly, financial return. Enough is enough. There is a concept called enough. Nobody in capitalism seems to have realized there is no enough. It doesn't go on forever. The truth is, not having not enough money doesn't make you happy. But also, having too much doesn't make you happy. And I've got empirical proof of this coming on the next slide in 2 minutes and 8 seconds. So, not just for you, but also for your family, for society as well, these things. The truth is, the more you give, the more you get back. Not the more you take. It's absolutely critical if you want to enjoy your life, to enjoy giving. And you will get back an awful lot more on an IEF level and against transparency rules. I could go in that for ages. So this is why capitalism is rubbish. This is your spend line over life, he says, needing to be a bit taller. You spend most at 48. You spend all the way up there, then you just downsize and spend less and you're happier and all that kind of stuff. This is the global trend of happiness. Now, which is reassuring, because when I was a sprog, I thought you started euphoric and you get ever so miserable towards death. But the reassuring thing is, there is a no point, and then there is good stuff going as you get older. Being 51, I'm on the upside now. Happy days. Now, the global nadir, you're going to be least happy, statistically, globally, at 47. You may have worked out the trend line here. The more you spend, the less happy you get. And this is the fallacy of the American version of capitalism that we decided to take after the Second World War. That the more the stuff you have, I promise you, 28 seconds. The more stuff you have, the happier it gets. It doesn't work. Less stuff, more freedom, happier people. Right, I've got 28 seconds. You think, how many of those people would you like to be involved with? How would you share? But these people, they're people that you want to be part of. So who would you trust more out of those two? Who would you share more with? And bear in mind, we're in a sharing world where we're all mashing together things to get collaborations to work together. You're not going to share anything with them. People at the top. It's the people at the bottom with the traits that you've got that are about sharing, giving, supporting. Really purposeful people that you want to involve yourself with. So, the truth of the matter is, in a Marxist-capitalist world, to get the most out of your life, to be the most selfish version of you that you can be, is you have to give more. Because the more you give, the more you get. And the truth of the matter is, it is a choice. Because I've proved with Webmart, it works. Everybody else told me it'll never work and all that kind of stuff. But it actually does work. And we've got a much happier life. And you've got a choice. You've got a choice how you run your life, how you want to be. And you can indeed make a better world. And this is a great quote that I read years ago, and it absolutely rings true. You must be the change you wish to be in the world. And the truth is, you have that choice absolutely now. So on your marks, get set, go! Thank you very much.